Back to the Techlounge studio at the Mobile World Congress 2015 in beautiful and sunny Barcelona here at the Intel booth. I'm very glad to have Doug Fisher over here, Senior Vice President, General Manager of the Intel Software and Service Group. Good to see you, Doug.
Good to see you.
How's it going?
Good. It's crazy as usual, but it's going good. Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about the Intel Software and Service Group. What are your focus areas in general?
Yeah, so Intel and Software, we're one of the largest software organizations in the world if you take a look at the resources we apply to that. And our focus is really ensuring that all the great value we build into our architecture and our platforms is exposed through the work we do in software. So I describe it as we light up the hardware with the software work we do.
Yeah.
And so our focus continues to be enabling all the elements of software, all the way from pre-boot environment, all the way up through the operating systems to databases, runtimes, and core applications, whether it's on a data center environment, enterprise environment, all the way to the mobile devices. My job is to ensure that we light up that software, run best on Intel architecture.
That's quite interesting because I'm pretty sure if we're asking people here on the show floor, you know, you've heard of the Intel Software and Service Group, they might just think about chips and SoCs and all of this, and x86.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they call us one of the best hidden assets that Intel has, so I'll take that.
Yeah, which is actually a good one. I mean, you've had a couple of initiatives in the past. I remember that where you're starting app centers, and especially as soon as you were entering the mobile market right now. So what's new for the Intel Software and Service Group right now, and especially over here at the Mobile World Congress?
Well, as it relates to Mobile World Congress, I'm actually really proud of where we're at on things like Android.
Yeah.
If you take a look at what we were talking about 2-3 years ago,
oh yes,
it wasn't as encouraging as it is today. I would say today, and I look at people in the eye, and we are the best at delivering Android in the world today. It's exemplified in our work on the Intel reference design for Android, which is a very, very complicated development environment to ensure that we get updates to the customers on our Intel reference design within 2 weeks of any changes to Android. So that puts us at world class in doing Android. We took an objective last year of driving compatibility with the ecosystem, Google Play and other markets around the world that participate on Android, and we're as compatible with that marketplace as any device with an ARM architecture. So we are absolutely world-class when it comes to compatibility with the ecosystem, and we're seeing large amounts of the top 100 applications developing natively to Intel architecture, well over 80+%. So we're seeing the ecosystem move to Intel. Our commitment to 40 million tablets last year really changed the mindset, as well as our engagement and our capabilities in Android. So I'm really excited this year because we are world-class when it comes to Android, and our platforms are world-class. So it's just a really cool environment now.
Well, thanks for bringing this up, because I remember the discussion like 2 or 3 years ago. x86 was hitting the mobile platforms, and all of a sudden we were talking Android and compatibility of this. And a lot of people were, let's say, a little bit concerned.
Right.
And I think you really made a statement in the coming years, and you delivered.
Yeah, you know, the big challenge was whether or not we're compatible, and that whole thing has disappeared. The conversations have changed. I do a lot of talking internally and externally, and I say change the conversation, and the conversation has changed. We don't have that conversation any longer because we are compatible with the ecosystem. So it's a really big move for us. One of the things that we, probably the last thing we needed to ensure was critical infrastructure elements were moved to Intel architecture, and we made the announcement around Unity moving to native Intel. So every element that we used to get criticized for is no longer a problem. We moved all those considerations now, and we're really moving fast on that platform.
You've been, as far as I know, well, I think this is my 8th Mobile World Congress right now. You've been the very first chip manufacturer to start here with a software and service group. That was already like 4 or 5 years ago. I remember that.
Yeah.
You've had that was a small little booth at that time, but you were already embracing developers.
That's
and I think this is really paying off now.
Well, you're right. This is a really important point. We're one Intel, one unified Intel software and hardware, but the developers are a critical part of that. And this is our role, is to bring those developers to Intel. And so we have a presence here in our corporate booth here, as well as a corporate booth in the software development hall. I think it's Hall 8, just about a mile and a half from here. But I'll be moving over to there right when I'm done here and meet with the developers. So yes, we've embraced the developers. We've provided a lot of really cool development environments, all the way from our virtual platform that's the fastest in the world and is well known in the industry, as well as our tools to allow you to build applications, whether it's native applications or runtime applications. Really have some great stuff over there in the developer side too.
So, I mean, what's next on the horizon for Intel? Now that we have, I just talked to Kirk before, and I was asking him, so what kind of device are you using when you're traveling? Right? Because it's all about mobile device. I'm using this nice little 5th generation Core i from Dell, which I absolutely love. And well, Kirk was using a 2-in-1, and he was also using an Asus Zenfone 6, a phablet. Asus, one of the companies that absolutely committed to x86 and really embraced this architecture for all their mobile devices. You must be very excited about this.
Yeah, I'm very excited. They've embraced Intel architecture. The Zenfone is doing very, very well, and so it showcases our platform quite well. And so I'm similar to Kirk. I carry multiple devices. I like to experiment with them, so I have devices with multiple operating environments as well as a 2-in-1. I can't. I'm not sure if I can ever go back. I've always been a touch-first kind of person, and so the 2-in-1 works really, really well for me. I find it very painful now when I go up to a device without touch, and so I see that transition happening. It's very efficient for me. And so I'm a 2-in-1 guy, as well as I use tablets sometimes, and definitely use my handset and different ones. I just like to experiment and play with different devices to learn what's going on in the ecosystem.
What are the biggest challenges when you're really coming? Well, it's not a new market for you guys.
Right.
You've been building chips for 40 years right now. But when you were entering the mobile market, and especially to convince developers, convince OEMs, you know what, we have a very competitive platform, you know, and we want to help you with our software group. That must be very challenging in a market that was already quite saturated.
Yeah, it was really difficult. I think our whole transition as a company, if I look back at the resources, over 25% of my resources are doing different jobs today than they were a year ago. So we are a pretty agile organization and shifted a large number of people to drive the mobile capabilities. And so it has been a big shift for us. It has been a big mindset change for how we drive that. And not just at the application layer. I joke about the days when you build a PCAT compatible device, a PCAT compatible operating environment, the two merge and everything is great. We're in a much more complex world today across the board, whether it's Windows, Android, or other operating environments. The intimacy between the hardware and software is so critical. It's always been critical to take advantage of our capabilities, but because of the performance and power optimizations you need to do to get that experience that end users want and expect, that is really a big shift for us. And so the tight tie between Kirk, who you talked to earlier today, his organization at the device level is extremely tight, because you have to go hand in hand in delivering that platform. And the software and hardware tie is so much different. And then when you get to the application layer, it's ensuring not only the applications are developed for Intel, but that optimizations that we did at the core level, you have to ensure that the applications are not running rogue, as we describe it, as well, that they don't consume too much power and have bad behavior. So we have to build tools that help developers ensure that their experience actually respects the device experience that you want to have. So it's very complex, but again, we've been doing so much development with developers over the years. We've just shifted to that mindset, and we're doing great. So it's been a big shift.
Plus, we're talking pretty much about the most dynamic market that there is right now. We just touched ultrabooks and 2-in-1s and tablets and smartphones. But we also have wearables. We have the Internet of Things
Yeah.
coming up. This must be also a huge challenge for you guys, right? To
Yeah.
especially create this interconnectivity in between the different platforms.
Yeah, so our focus has always been very specific to a platform. Optimize that platform, optimize. And the complexities of doing that has grown dramatically. So that in itself has been interesting and fun. That's what makes my job exciting. Whether I'm working on a handset device, an edge device, or the data center.
Yeah.
I have a lot of different areas I have to focus on. But now the connective tissue between those devices is becoming a very critical asset that we bring to bear as well. And so we have the IoT platform that we talked about at our IoT Insights days. And as part of that is the connective tissue. That's the software that brings these 50 billion connected devices, the information in a provisioned, secure way to the data center. And so that's been a big push of ours, is providing those API management infrastructure and layer to get those devices able to communicate. You've also seen recently a big push of ours to ensure that devices can talk to each other as well, the interconnectivity between those devices. That's why we launched the Open Interconnect Consortium, which is a critical program. We believe that an open, IP-free or a royalty-free IP environment that allows developers to connect devices royalty-free in an open way with the specification and certification program is critical to innovation. And that's why we started the OIC, because we don't believe that devices will always connect back to a data center, but they'll connect to each other, providing information of value to each other, giving a better experience in that environment. So it's really an interesting world today.
It's still a challenge of creating standards for this new world. And I really like this approach that you're really going for open standards. I think this is very important to also embrace the developer community.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely critical. We think that open platforms drive innovation. It allows everybody to participate. We describe it as you participate through meritocracy. Your code speaks, your contributions speak. And so that's what we believe really drives innovation. The thing I've learned over my career is you can't predict where innovation is going to come from. It just comes from every corner of the earth. If we would have tried to predict things like Twitter or Facebook or any of these environments and ever-growing Instagram, Snapchat, you would never have predicted where the innovation is going to come from. And so our job is to ensure that when developers are innovating, they're innovating in a way that accelerates their innovation, makes it easy to do it, and it's done on Intel architecture. And so we do some really creative and fun stuff with hackathons now. We have a hacker league that's part of our assets, and we participate and run hackathons, and it's pretty crazy at the university levels as well as at the industry level. We do a lot of fun things with hackathons.
Yeah, I remember the hackathon from MWC 2014 where people were just queuing up all around the block. That was absolutely amazing.
It's right. It was a crazy event. We had standing room only. We couldn't satisfy the demand last year. Yeah, I remember that. We had to turn away people on that event. And so it's really becoming crazy. I went to one a few months ago at University of Washington. They've had one at Stanford, Cal. I had a really cool one a while ago as well, and you get 500 to 1,000 bright, innovative minds at the university level in a gym or an auditorium for 36 to 48 hours, and out comes some really cool stuff. We feed them our hardware platforms, our tools, our learnings that we have, development kits, and get out of their way. Let the innovation reign. It's really cool.
You know what's interesting? I've been to Bangalore like 3 weeks ago for a Mercedes hackathon, and people were still talking about an Intel hackathon in Bangalore. So it was just a huge success. Yeah,
we've learned how to work in that environment. It's about learning your audience and how do you participate with them, not how you make them participate with us. So we've actually acquired a company that really knew how to do that, and it allows us to infuse our technology and capabilities to make their jobs easier, but we come to them. And we, deliver in their environment, which is something I don't think naturally we would have done. But we have absolutely learned. It's not only about the innovation that they come out with, and it's crazy the cool stuff, but it's connecting with that community of developers that you naturally wouldn't touch. These are the next brightest minds, the next greatest idea is coming out of there, and you have to ensure that your architecture is what they innovate on because you want to ensure Intel architecture everywhere. And you want to bring those. A lot of those students end up coming to Intel as well.
Yeah,
So it's a great way of reaching out, touching students from a diverse set of capabilities. It's really good.
What you've mentioned earlier, saying, you know what, it's so hard to predict innovation and to predict the next big thing. Just 10 years ago, could you have ever imagined for a company like Intel, for a software and service group at Intel, to really become so open, to really reach out to all these talents, to come from a more, let's say, internal linear growth of development in terms of software to almost an exponential one right now?
Yeah, it's a mix. I always believed that software, I graduated as an electrical engineer and then did my master's in business and software. So I've always touched software from a hardware perspective. So I guess I grew up in this industry knowing how important software was to a platform. I actually joined Intel because I knew over the years it would eventually get to the level it's at. I didn't know how it would get there and the level it would get there, but I knew it was always going to be critical. The thing I love about Intel is its embracing of the value of software. I report to the CEO, and he has software right is in the center of what he is really driving. Renee and BK both really understand the value of it and bring it to the executive level to ensure that. So what I wouldn't have predicted that, but I predicted the value, but I didn't predict that the top levels of Intel, the CEO and president, would have such deep understanding and commitment to it. It's really, really inspiring for people that work in software at Intel.
I really realized how important this was for Intel. That was like 2 years ago. I was a judge on the Ultimate Coder Challenge for the Perceptual Computing.
Oh, right.
And you can explain to people a lot about new technologies and new hardware technologies, but let some developers really play with it.
Yeah.
And the winner was someone who created a software for children so that they can play with their hands, and the hands were turning into puppets and muppets.
Right.
And they could draw their own wallpapers, and they could record it over the 3D camera. It was just perfect because it was all about voice. It was all about gestures. It was about creativity.
Right.
And this where the power and how software was embracing new technologies. That was absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And that's why we invest so much in our development kits for that environment.
Yeah.
Because we think that the innovation around that has been not only from a consumer perspective, education we think is going to be a big move. I've seen enough of what's going on in that space to know that it's going to be instrumental in education. But even in the enterprise side, we've showcased some stuff with shoe manufacturers where they're capturing 3D image of your foot to help size shoes, to allow shoe manufacturers to focus on style, not sizing. We're seeing companies look at how they can use that environment to model like home improvement projects. If you've ever done one, you know the biggest challenge is visualizing what something's going to actually turn out before you've built it. And it's very expensive. There's an old joke where they have a picture of a big yacht that says remodel, and then they back away and they have this yacht 3 times the size that says change order. It's really about visualizing and allowing you to build that experience before you actually commit to the investment. So I'm really bullish on the 3D environment and the visualization.
So just to let you guys know about this, you should also check out our IDF coverage, because actually it's one of my favorite shows of the year, because you're not so under pressure to get the next scoop and to go to the next press conference. Yeah. You can really take your time and hit the show floor, and to also see an even IDF change, in my opinion, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, once again, through the software group, by inviting new young talents over to the show floor and to show especially what they were doing with Edison right now, or even during CES when I saw this amazing spider dress from Manuk Viprecht with Edison. That was absolutely amazing. It tells a lot about how you're evolving.
Yeah, thanks for recognizing that. Actually, it's been an evolution. We've had 2 big changes. One has been, let's focus back on development. It's a developer forum. Let's focus on the developers. That's been a big shift. We're focusing less on marketing and more on what are we doing and how we bring in developers along with us. The second change has been bringing software developers to that, and we track that. And it's been quite successful getting the software developers to our developer conferences because we want to pay attention to them, participate, and give them value. And that's really been a big shift for us, and it continues to be a big focus for us, is bringing value to developers. And for my job, it's bringing value to software developers. And so I'm glad you recognize the shift because it has been purposeful, and it's been a focus of ours, and we see it really making a big difference.
Doug, last but not least,
Yeah.
what's the next big thing? What is it? Are smartphones still, is x86 taking over the smartphone world? Are wearables the next big thing? Are we all wearing these spider dresses in the future? Will we have like Edison-enabled jackets in the future? What is the next big thing that you are the most excited about?
Well, I did mention the 3D world. I'm very excited about that. Actually, my son called me, he's at university now, and said, "Dad, can you get me connected into a 3D printer? I want to make one." And so it's already taking hold at the university level. So I really believe that's going to be one of the next big things. First of all, I told you I can't predict. That's why we participate with the ecosystem, because innovation comes from everywhere. But I think that will be a big impact. I think Internet of Things, Internet everywhere, however you describe it. I think it's going to be the connected devices, that 50 billion plus devices that are connected is going to be a big inflection. Yeah. It's changing not only how we participate with our lives. I wear this Basis watch. Yeah. I haven't worn a watch for 30 years. I don't go without this watch. It's crazy. It's a fact. I don't like watches, but this one I love because it brings value to me.
It's interesting to visualize personal data.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Somebody says you have to have a watch tell you how you slept, and I said, I kind of want a watch to tell me. But it also encourages me to do my walking and steps and things like that. It's a great motivator, and it has the data to prove that I've done what I've done during the day. So I think that the wearables is going to be a big part of that 50 billion connected devices. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you're going to see a big push in our effort on unstructured data and optimizing that. So you've seen what we're doing with Hadoop and all the elements there as we drive the capabilities for Intel. So it's not going to be one thing, but I really am excited about the leading edge that we're providing in our platforms. Like you saw the Dell Venue 8 with the 3D camera capability. Yeah. You're going to see us driving those kind of things into platforms pretty broadly. So I'm really excited for that whole shift to occur.
Exciting times ahead of us. Not only for Intel, but for the whole industry.
That's right. And for everybody participating, it's going to be really fun.
Doug Fisher, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time. Yeah.